Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report, and I got a report. It is finally bass season. And what does that really mean? What it means is now you can deliberately fish for bass. You can keep the legal limit and whatever. But the impact of this, I think, is greater than what I can even tell you. It's affected me tremendously because in the waters that we live around, whether it's the St. Lawrence River or the tributaries or whatever, there's bass everywhere. And in the springtime, those bass are going to be wherever you would fish for something else. And the law states that you can't deliberately target bass during this off season. Now we don't have to worry about that. But I think it's important to talk about it because it's impossible to fish for northern pike or walleyes or anything else in our waters and not catch bass. And it's affected me because I've had some of the greatest fishing this spring that I've ever had. And part of that fishing has been inadvertently catching some of the biggest bass I've ever caught, I've ever seen. And I got to tell you, we have bass in this area that are bigger than we can imagine. I mean, probably bass that will exceed the record that New York State has. And so that's all good. And is it that important to protect those bass during that period when every other part of the state, it's okay to fish and catch and release bass, except in our region? And the reason behind it is they're very vulnerable. The DEC, the Canadian government, feels that they're very vulnerable at this time. And the one thing that I can agree with is gobies exist in the Great Lakes waters, and hopefully they're not going to exist in many other waters. And gobies are a threat because as soon as that bass leaves its bed, those gobies rush in and they annihilate the eggs. And that's a factor. So maybe that is why. But I got to tell you, the only thing that I find is I'll give you 2 points that I want to speak of. Number one is I've never believed, and I don't believe at this point, in fishing for bass deliberately on their bed. In other words, locating a bed, seeing it through whatever means, and putting your lure down there on the bed to get the bass to strike, because the bass is going to hit it no matter what to get it off its bed. So I don't believe in that. I don't find it's being sporty, and it's just not something I believe in. Some of you may differ with me. The second thing that I will tell you is that if it were legal to catch and release bass with top bass fishermen, knowing that our area has some of the biggest smallmouth anywhere, they would be flocking here knowing that during the spring the bass are the most vulnerable and you're going to catch them. So with all that said, I guess to summarize, maybe this will change as we go forward. I'm not a biologist. I don't know how much damage we actually do. Other parts of the country, they say the bass survive just fine being fished for all year long. My second thing, though, is I haven't been able to come on and tell you about the big bass that I've caught by accident because I wanted to share that. We've got some fabulous big fish in our area. And it bodes well, I think, for all the things we're trying to do, for all the tournaments that might come here, as long as we're very, very careful and conservation-oriented. And it speaks highly that if we can get kids into fishing, we've got a great area for them to enjoy. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.